Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Storytime with Uncle Monkey. I am your Uncle Monkey, and I'm here today to read to you the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once there was a sweet little girl who was loved by everyone who saw her, but most of all by her grandmother, who was never tired of giving the child gifts. Once she gave her a hood made of red velvet, and because it was so becoming to her and she wouldn't wear anything else on her head, she was simply called Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Hood, there is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Bring it over to your grandmother. She's sick and weak, and this will refresh her. Start out before the sun gets hot, and when you're outdoors, behave yourself and don't run off the path, or else you'll fall and break the glass, and your poor grandmother won't have anything. And when you go inside her cottage, don't forget to say good morning right away and not to stare into every corner." "I'll do everything properly," said Little Red Hood to her mother, and she gave her her hand as a pledge. But her grandmother lived out in the forest, a half-hour's walk from the village. Now, when Little Red Riding Hood entered the forest, she was met by the wolf. Little Red Hood didn't know what a vicious animal he was, and she wasn't afraid of him.
"Good day, Little Red Hood," he said.
"Thank you, Wolf."
"Where to so early, Little Red Hood?"
"To my grandmother's."
"What are you carrying under your apron?"
"Cake and wine. Yesterday we baked, and my sick, weak grandmother is to enjoy some of it and get her strength back."
"Little Red Riding Hood, where does your grandmother live?"
"Another good quarter-hour's walk deeper into the woods, under 3 big oak trees. That's where her house is. Below it are nut hedges, as you surely know," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself,
This young, tender creature is a plump morsel, and she'll taste even better than the old lady. You've got to proceed with guile so you can get hold of both of them."
So he walked alongside Little Red Hood for a while, then said,
"Little Red Riding Hood, just see the beautiful flowers that are growing all around here. Why don't you look at them? I don't believe you ever hear how sweetly the birds are singing. You're walking in a beeline as if you were on the way to school, and it's so jolly out here in the woods."
Little Red opened her eyes wide, and she saw how the sunbeams were dancing to and fro among the trees, and the whole area was full of beautiful flowers. She thought, "If I bring grandmother a fresh bouquet, that will make her happy too. It's so early in the day that I'll still get there in plenty of time." She ran off the path and into the woods looking for flowers. And every time she picked one, she thought of an even prettier one that was growing farther off, and she ran in that direction, getting deeper and deeper into the woods. But the wolf went straight to her grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?"
"It's Little Red Hood bringing cake and wine. Let me in."
"Just press down on the latch," the grandmother called. "I'm too weak and I can't get up." The wolf pressed down on the latch and the door flew open, and, without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and gulped her down. Then he put on her clothes, put her nightcap on his head, lay down in her bed, and pulled the bed curtain shut. But Little Red Hood had been running after the flowers, and after collecting so many she couldn't carry anymore, she remembered her grandmother again, and she set out for her house. She was surprised to find the door open, and when she stepped inside, it felt so odd to her that she thought, "Oh heavens, how nervous I feel today, though I usually so enjoy being at grandmother's." She called good morning, but got no answer. Then she went over to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother, whose nightcap was pulled down over her face and who looked most peculiar. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have!"
"The better to hear you with?"
Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have!
The better to see you with.
Oh, grandmother, what big hands you have!
The better to hold you with.
But grandmother, what a horribly big mouth you have!
The better to eat you with.
Scarcely had the wolf said that when he bounded out of the bed and swallowed poor Little Red Riding Hood. After the wolf had sated his appetite, he went back to bed and fell asleep and began to snore extremely loudly. The gamekeeper, who was just passing the house, heard the snoring and thought,
How the old lady is snoring. You must see whether anything is wrong with her.
So he entered the cottage, and when he came up to the bed, he saw the wolf lying on it.
So I find you here, you old reprobate, he said. I've been looking for you for a long time.
Now he wanted to level his gun, but it occurred to him that the wolf might have eaten the grandmother and she might still be saved. He didn't want to shoot, so he got a pair of scissors and began cutting open the sleeping wolf's belly. After a couple of sniffs, he saw a little red hood shining, and a few snips later, a girl jumped out calling, "Oh, how frightened I was! How dark and terrible and smelly it was inside the wolf's body! Ugh!" And then her old grandmother came out, also still alive, though she could hardly breathe. But Little Red Hood quickly gathered a bunch of big stones, which filled the wolf's body, and they stitched him back up. When the wolf awoke, he wanted to dash away, but the stones were so heavy that he immediately collapsed and fell dead. Then all three were happy. The gamekeeper skinned the wolf and went home with its pelt. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine that Little Red Riding Hood had brought her, and she recovered her strength. But Little Red Hood thought, "As long as I live, I'll never again run off the path into the woods when my mother has told me not to." The end. I really hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I'll be back again next week with more episodes.